Marcus Ellison, a black tech mogul, sat on his private jet, fingers flying over his laptop, sealing a billion-dollar AI deal. A white flight attendant, Lisa Carter, smirked, assuming he was a nobody, and spilled scalding coffee, frying his machine. Her mocking shrug stunned the crew. Marcus, voice calm, said, "I own this jet." Gasps echoed, but Lisa's defiant sneer hinted at trouble. One spilled drink would unravel his empire. What was she planning? Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from. If you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe for more gripping stories. Marcus Ellison's pulse thundered as the jet touched down in Miami's sticky 90-degree heat, the ruined laptop still smoking in his mind, its circuits fried by Lisa Carter's scalding coffee and her smug, unapologetic smirk. He'd built Nexus Innovations from a cramped garage into a billion-dollar AI empire. And now this insult, this blatant racial jab, threatened to unravel it all. Sitting in the jet's leather seat, he dialed his lawyer, Aisha Reynolds, her voice crisp through his earpiece, promising swift action against the management company that employed Lisa. Marcus demanded Lisa's termination, his voice low but ironclad, recounting how she'd assumed he was some lowlife, not the jet's owner. Her eyes gleaming with contempt when she accidentally destroyed his work. Aisha, a sharp-tongued attorney who'd fought corporate giants, assured him the company would fold under pressure, especially with Nexus's legal muscle. By noon, Marcus stood in his sleek office overlooking Biscayne Bay, the city's turquoise, waters glinting under a cloudless sky, watching as Aisha filed a formal complaint. The management company's CEO, a nervous man named Gregson, called within hours, stammering apologies and confirming Lisa's firing. Marcus exhaled, believing justice was served, his deal still salvageable with a backup laptop. He leaned back in his chair, the weight of the morning lifting, thinking he'd outmaneuvered the slight. But then his phone buzzed, a notification from X, and his stomach twisted. A viral video, already viewed 2 million times, showed grainy footage of him on the jet, edited to make him look like a raging bully shoving Lisa as she cowered. The caption screamed, "Entitled passenger assaults helpless attendant." Comments piled up, vicious and racial, calling him a thug, a menace, demanding his arrest. Marcus's jaw clenched, his 6-foot frame tensing as he recognized the lie. The deliberate cut where his calm words were replaced with aggression. He called Aisha, who was already on it, her voice tight with fury, confirming the video came from an anonymous account linked to Victor Hargrove, a silver-haired airline executive with a southern drawl and a reputation for crushing rivals. Victor, a major stakeholder in the jet's management company, had a history of dodging scandals, his wealth tied to Miami's elite and beyond. Marcus's team pulled the jet security footage, crystal clear and unedited, showing Lisa's smirk, her deliberate spill and Marcus's restraint. Aisha leaked it to a local news outlet, and by evening the truth gained traction, with ex-users flipping the narrative, hashtags like "Justice for Marcus" trending. Marcus felt a flicker of triumph, believing he'd exposed Victor's dirty play, his deal back on track. He walked to his office window, the city's neon lights flickering alive, unaware that Victor was watching the same skyline from a penthouse 10 miles away, his thin lips curling. Victor, a man who'd clawed his way to power in a world that rewarded ruthlessness, didn't flinch at Marcus's counterattack. He picked up his phone, his voice smooth as whiskey, and called a contact at a major bank. By midnight, Marcus's victory crumbled. An email from Nexus's CFO hit his inbox marked urgent, warning that their corporate accounts holding $300 million were frozen, flagged for suspicious activity. The bank cited vague regulatory concerns, but Marcus knew better. His team scrambled, tracing the order to a federal regulator tied to Victor's network, a web of old money allies who'd long resented a black man's rise. The freeze halted Nexus's operations, from payroll for 5,000 employees to the AI deal's final signatures, now delayed as partners hesitated, spooked by the video's lingering stain. Marcus paced his office, the Miami skyline mocking him, its glow dimmed by the weight of this new blow. His deal, his company, his legacy teetered on the edge, and Victor's shadow loomed larger, his retaliation colder than Marcus had imagined. Aisha burst through the door, her tablet glowing with a new ex-post from Victor's PR firm, doubling down, accusing Marcus of fraud to justify the freeze. Marcus's fists balled, his mind racing for a countermove, but a chill settled in his gut. He'd won a skirmish with the footage, but Victor was playing a longer game, one where money and power bent truth. Marcus told Aisha to dig into Victor's finances, suspecting deeper corruption. But as he drove home through Miami's humid streets, his headlights caught a glint of spray paint on his mansion's gate, fresh and dripping. The words, jagged and red, screamed a racial slur, a warning that this fight was no longer just corporate. Victor's reach was personal, his hate rooted in something uglier than business. Marcus stepped out, the night air thick, his phone buzzing with a text from an unknown number. "You're done." The gate's paint glistened, a promise of worse to come, and Marcus realized this was no longer about a spilled coffee or a laptop. It was a war, and Victor was just getting started. Marcus Ellison's heart pounded as he stood before his Miami mansion's iron gate, the racial slurs red paint dripping like blood under the moon's pale glow. Each jagged letter, a knife to his pride. The humid 90-degree night clung to his skin, sweat mixing with fury as he traced the vandalism's fresh edges, the words, "Go back to Africa," searing into his mind. Just hours ago, he'd tasted victory, his jet security footage exposing Lisa Carter's lie, and Victor Hargrove's doctored video, the X hashtags, honor justice for Marcus climbing to 10 million. He'd driven home from Nexus Innovations, the city's neon pulse alive, believing he'd turned the tide, his billion-dollar AI deal salvageable despite the frozen accounts. But this hateful scrawl on his sanctuary, was Victor's next move, a personal stab after Marcus's public win. He clenched his fists, 6-foot frame taut, and called his security chief Jamal Tate, demanding answers. Jamal, a former Marine with a scar across his cheek, arrived within 20 minutes, his flashlight sweeping the gate, revealing a hacked camera system, its wires sliced clean. Marcus's mansion, a fortress of glass and steel overlooking Biscayne Bay, was supposed to be untouchable, its alarms state-of-the-art. Yet someone had breached it with surgical precision. Inside, Marcus paced the marble foyer, the ocean's distant crash mocking his unease, as Jamal's team scoured the grounds, finding footprints leading to a back wall 300 feet away. Marcus's mind raced, connecting the dots to Victor, the silver-haired airline titan whose southern drawl hid a venomous streak. He'd underestimated Victor's reach, his ability to wield hate like a weapon. By dawn, Marcus rallied his tech team, a group of coders led by Priya Sharma, a wiry genius with a knack for cracking encryption. Huddled in his home office, the Miami skyline gray through bulletproof windows, they traced the hack to a server in Jacksonville, linked to a shell company called Crescent Holdings. Priya's fingers flew, her screen flashing code, until she unearthed a bombshell. Crescent was funded by Victor's offshore accounts, tied to a local hate group known for torching black-owned businesses. Marcus's blood ran cold, the room's air conditioner humming uselessly against his rage. This wasn't just about a spilled coffee or a smeared reputation. Victor was playing a deadlier game, one rooted in a hatred Marcus had faced since his childhood in Atlanta's poorest corners. He told Priya to compile the evidence, his voice steady despite the storm inside, planning a press conference to expose Victor's ties and bury him. Aisha Reynolds, his lawyer, burst in, her braids swinging, tablet glowing with a news alert. The frozen accounts were thawing, a small win from their legal pressure. Marcus felt a surge of hope, believing he'd outmaneuvered Victor again. The press conference his chance to strike. He envisioned the headlines, Victor's empire crumbling under public fury, his deal back on track. He spent the day prepping, his team drafting statements, the mansion's lights blazing as Miami's heat climbed to 95 degrees. But as he rehearsed his speech, the room's silence shattered with a deafening crash, floodlights blinding through every window and the wail of sirens splitting the night. Armored SWAT officers, helmets gleaming, stormed the foyer, rifles raised, shouting for Marcus to hit the floor. His heart jackhammered, hands raised, as a grizzled commander barked, "Marcus Ellison, you're under arrest for drug trafficking." The accusation hit like a sledgehammer, his mind reeling, the marble cold against his knees as cuffs snapped tight. Aisha screamed objections, But the officers shoved her back, their boots echoing like war drums. They ransacked the mansion, tearing through his office. Priya's laptop seized, the Crescent evidence gone. Marcus, dragged to a van, saw neighbors gawking, their phones recording, the slur still wet on his gate. The setup was flawless. Victor's retaliation colder, sharper than anything before. A false police report, planted evidence, and a SWAT raid, all orchestrated to paint Marcus as a criminal, his wealth and status meaningless against systemic lies. In the van, headlights flashing across his face, Marcus realized the press conference was dead, his reputation in tatters, the hate group's hack a distraction for this bigger blow. Victor's network, vast and untouchable, had turned his home into a trap, his victory a mirage. As the van sped through Miami's rain-slicked streets, Marcus's mind burned with one question. How deep did Victor's power run? Hey, if you're raging at this injustice, drop a #1 in the comments to stand with Marcus. Hit like, subscribe, and join the fight for truth, because this story's only getting wilder. So, what's Victor planning next to crush Marcus's spirit? Stick around to find out. Marcus Ellison sat in Aisha Reynolds' downtown Miami office, the city's skyline a hazy blur through tinted windows, his wrists still raw from the SWAT team's cuffs, the sting of the false drug trafficking charge burning deeper than the 97-degree heat outside. Released on bail after a sleepless night in a cell, his mansion defaced with racial slurs and his reputation shredded, Marcus clung to one truth. Victor Hargrove, the silver-haired airline titan, was behind it all, his web of hate and power tightening. Aisha, her eyes fierce, slammed a tablet on her desk, showing the Crescent Holdings evidence recovered from a backup drive, linking Victor to the hate group that hacked Marcus's security. The SWAT raid, a setup fueled by a forged police report, had nearly broken him. But Marcus saw a path forward, a chance to expose Victor's corruption and reclaim his life. He'd spent his childhood dodging punches in Atlanta's roughest streets, building Nexus Innovations from nothing, and he wasn't about to let a racist like Victor win. Aisha proposed a press conference, a bold move to reveal Victor's ties to the hate group and rally public support, leveraging the Dow Justice for Marcus momentum still flickering on X despite the raid's fallout. Marcus nodded, his 6-foot frame, leaning forward, envisioning the cameras, the headlines, his billion-dollar AI deal salvaged. By noon, they booked a hotel ballroom, its chandeliers glinting like promises, and Marcus stood before 100 reporters, the room buzzing with flashes and murmurs. His voice, steady but laced with pain, recounted the jet incident, the doctored video, the mansion vandalism, and now the raid, tying them to Victor's shell company. He held up a printed bank transfer, Crescent's funds traced to Victor's offshore accounts, and the crowd gasped, phones live-streaming every word. X exploded, posts surging to 20 million views, with influencers and activists amplifying Marcus's story, calling Victor a puppet master of hate. By evening, Nexus's stock ticked up 5 points, and the AI deal's lead investor, a tech giant in Silicon Valley, emailed to resume talks. Marcus left the hotel, the Miami sunset painting the sky crimson, his chest lighter, believing he'd landed a decisive blow. He drove through palm-lined streets, the ocean's salt air sharp, thinking Victor's empire was cracking, his own legacy secure. But Victor, sipping bourbon in his oceanfront penthouse 10 miles away, watched the press conference on a wall-mounted screen, his thin lips twitching with amusement. He'd anticipated Marcus's move, his network of allies, from judges to media, moguls, already primed. Before Marcus reached home, his phone lit up with a news alert, a bombshell leak from an anonymous source. Financial records, forged to show Marcus funneling Nexus funds to offshore accounts, tagged as money laundering. The documents, slick and convincing, flooded X, news channels, and even the Wall Street Journal's homepage, painting Marcus as a fraud who'd built his empire on crime. Comments turned vicious, racial slurs resurfacing, the public's sympathy evaporating. Marcus pulled over, his SUV idling on a quiet street, hands shaking as he scrolled, the lies so detailed they felt real. Aisha called, her voice frantic, confirming the IRS had launched an investigation, freezing Marcus's personal assets, from his bank accounts to his yacht, totaling $200 million. The AI deal collapsed within hours. The investor, citing reputational risks, a polite way of saying Marcus's blackness, now tainted by scandal, was too toxic. Nexus's board, spooked, scheduled an emergency meeting to discuss Marcus's removal as CEO, his own company slipping from his grasp. He drove to his office, the skyline's neon glow mocking him, and met Priya Sharma, his lead coder, who traced the leak to a server tied to Victor's PR firm. Marcus's rage flared, realizing Victor had weaponized the system again, exploiting stereotypes of black criminality to dismantle his wealth. He told Priya to dig deeper, suspecting Victor's IRS connections. But as they worked, the building's lights flickered and Priya's laptop froze, a red warning flashing. System breached. Marcus's stomach dropped, his team scrambling as Nexus's servers, housed in a fortified data center 50 miles away, began crashing, critical AI algorithms vanishing. Priya's screen showed the culprit, a trusted engineer, Carl Benson, who'd been with Nexus for a decade, had uploaded a virus, paid off by Victor's team. Carl, now gone, had erased backups, costing Nexus billions in intellectual property. Marcus stood in the dark office, the hum of dying servers like a funeral dirge, his press conference victory a cruel illusion. Victor's retaliation wasn't just financial, it was existential, targeting Marcus's legacy, his identity, his right to exist as a black man with power. Aisha burst in, her face pale, showing a new X post from Victor's firm, accusing Marcus of sabotaging his own company to dodge the IRS. The board meeting loomed, the IRS tightened its grip, and Marcus's mansion, still scarred with slurs, felt like a target. He knew Victor's next move would be worse, the system rigged to crush him, and as he stared at the city's flickering lights, a single question burned. How much more could he lose? Marcus Ellison's breath caught in his throat as he hunched in the shadows of a Miami alley, the humid 98-degree night pressing against his skin, the distant wail of sirens a constant reminder of the federal warrant branding him a fugitive. The IRS freeze, the server crash, and the forged money laundering scandal orchestrated by Victor Hargrove had shattered Nexus Innovations, his billion-dollar AI empire, and now this, a new low, an embezzlement charge pinned on him with fabricated bank records showing $50 million siphoned from Nexus to a Cayman Islands account. Released on bail after the SWAT raid, Marcus had believed his press conference exposing Victor's hate group ties would turn the tide. But Victor's retaliation was surgical, exploiting systemic biases to paint Marcus as a black criminal unworthy of his wealth. The board's vote to oust him as CEO was hours away, his mansion defaced, his AI deal dead, and now this warrant, broadcast across every news channel, his face plastered with "Wanted" in bold red. Marcus slipped through Miami's underbelly, his 6-foot frame cloaked in a hoodie, dodging the neon glow of Ocean Drive, where tourists laughed unaware of the manhunt tightening around him. He'd evaded police twice already, weaving through crowded markets, but the city felt like a cage. Victor's influence in every flashing drone overhead. His phone, a burner bought with cash, buzzed with a text from Aisha Reynolds, his lawyer, urging him to hide until she could challenge the warrant. But Marcus knew running wasn't enough. He needed proof to bury Victor. In a graffiti-streaked warehouse he met Jamal Tate, not his security chief, but a hacker unrelated by blood, a wiry 20-something with dreads, and a laptop that could crack Fort Knox. Jamal, who'd followed Marcus's story on X, offered to help, his fingers dancing over keys in the warehouse's dim light, the air thick with the smell of rust and oil. Within hours, Jamal hacked Victor's private email server, pulling a thread that unraveled a bombshell. Victor had bribed an IRS agent, a man named Kessler, to flag Marcus's accounts and plant the embezzlement evidence. The emails, time-stamped and damning, showed Victor's orders, his casual use of racial slurs chilling Marcus's spine. He felt a spark of hope, believing this was the weapon to clear his name, to expose Victor's corruption, and halt the manhunt. Jamal copied the files to a drive, the warehouse's silence broken only by the hum of his laptop, and Marcus planned to leak the evidence to a journalist, someone outside Victor's reach. He stepped outside, the Miami skyline a distant shimmer, thinking he'd outsmarted the system, his fugitive status temporary. But Victor, sipping espresso in a boardroom 10 miles away, had eyes everywhere. his network of informants embedded, even in Miami's shadows. He'd anticipated Marcus's desperation, his need to fight back, and had paid off Jamal weeks ago, a fact Marcus didn't know. As Marcus returned to the warehouse, headlights pierced the night, and 3 black SUVs screeched to a halt, disgorging mercenaries in tactical gear, their rifles glinting under streetlights. Marcus dove behind a crate, heart hammering, as bullets tore through the warehouse, splintering wood and sparking off metal. Jamal screamed, scrambling for cover, but his hesitation betrayed him, his eyes flickering with guilt. Marcus realized the truth, the sting of betrayal sharper than the gunfire, as Jamal's laptop pinged with a message from Victor's team, confirming the setup. The mercenaries advanced, boots crunching, their radios crackling with orders to neutralize the target. Marcus sprinted through a back exit, his shoulder grazed by a bullet, blood soaking his sleeve, the pain a white-hot jolt. He zigzagged through alleys, the mercenaries' shouts fading, but Jamal's betrayal burned deeper, Victor's reach suffocating. Marcus ducked into a storm drain, the damp concrete cold against his back, the drive with Victor's emails clutched in his hand. He'd escaped barely, believing he could still leak the evidence, salvage his fight. But as he caught his breath, his burner phone lit up with a news alert, a breaking story claiming he'd orchestrated the warehouse attack to cover his tracks, the narrative twisting tighter. Victor's machine never stopped, each move colder, more calculated, exploiting the system's distrust of a black man with power. Marcus's wound throbbed, his allies dwindling, the city a maze of traps. He thought of his sister Tanya, safe in Atlanta, or so he believed, unaware that Victor's next strike was already in motion, a blow that would cut deeper than any bullet. The drain's darkness swallowed him, the weight of his fugitive status, crushing, and Marcus knew this war was far from over, Victor's shadow stretching longer with every step he took. Marcus Ellison crouched in a Miami safe house, a crumbling apartment reeking of mildew, his shoulder wound pulsing with every heartbeat, the blood-soaked bandage a grim reminder of the mercenaries' ambush and Jamal's betrayal. The 99-degree heat seeped through cracked walls, Miami's neon skyline a faint glow beyond the boarded window. But Marcus's mind was on the drive clutched in his hand. Victor Hargrove's hacked emails proving the IRS bribe that framed him for embezzlement. A fugitive, hunted by police and Victor's killers, Marcus had evaded capture, his 6-foot frame aching from nights in storm drains and alleys, the weight of Nexus Innovations' collapse and his ousting as CEO crushing him. The warehouse betrayal had gutted his trust. But those emails were his lifeline, a chance to expose Victor, the silver-haired airline titan whose racist empire had turned Marcus's life into a battlefield. He'd contacted Elena Torres, a fearless journalist with a national outlet, her voice sharp over a burner phone, promising to publish the emails and blow Victor's scheme wide open. Marcus, his breath shallow, believed this was his turning point, a way to clear his name and end the manhunt painting him as a black criminal. He sent Elena the files, her confirmation text lighting his phone, and for a moment, he felt the old fire, the kid from Atlanta who'd built a billion-dollar AI empire against all odds. But as he leaned against the apartment's peeling wall, his phone buzzed with a video call, the screen showing his sister Tanya, bound and gagged in a dimly lit room, her eyes wide with terror. Victor's voice, smooth as venom, crackled through, demanding Marcus surrender the drive or Tanya would die. Marcus's heart stopped, the safe house's humid air choking him, Tanya's muffled sobs ripping through his soul. She was his anchor, the one who'd believed in him when their parents died, now a pawn in Victor's escalating war. Victor, lounging in a mahogany office 10 miles away, had tracked Marcus's moves, his network of corrupt cops and tech insiders feeding him every step. Marcus's mind raced, his wound throbbing as he plotted a rescue, refusing to let Victor win. He mapped the location from the video's background, a warehouse 30 miles north, near Opalaka, its rusted cranes visible through a window. With no allies left, Marcus armed himself with a stolen pistol, his hands trembling, and drove a beat-up sedan through Miami's rain-soaked streets, the 100-degree storm lashing the windshield. At the warehouse, he slipped past guards, there, radios crackling, and found Tanya tied to a chair, her face bruised but alive. He cut her free, her arms wrapping around him, but alarms blared, and Victor's men swarmed, forcing a desperate escape through a loading dock, bullets grazing Marcus's arm. They reached the sedan, speeding into the night, Tanya sobbing as Marcus sent Elena the go-ahead to publish. By dawn, the article hit. Victor's emails splashed across every major outlet, X posts surging to 30 million, with protests erupting outside Victor's corporate headquarters. Marcus, hiding Tanya in a motel 60 miles away, felt a rush of triumph, believing the public's fury would topple Victor, his fugitive status soon to lift. He hugged Tanya, her tears soaking his shirt, thinking he'd saved her, and struck back. But Victor, unfazed in his penthouse, smirked at the chaos, his contingency plan already in motion. As Marcus checked his phone, a news alert flashed. Nexus, Innovation's headquarters, a gleaming tower in downtown Miami, was engulfed in flames, a 5-alarm fire lighting the night sky, with fire trucks helpless against the inferno. The report claimed Marcus had ordered the arson to destroy evidence of his crimes, a lie backed by forged emails leaked to the police. Marcus's chest tightened, his legacy burning, the tower's glass shattering like his dreams. The blaze wiped out Nexus's remaining servers, costing billions, and a new warrant named Marcus as the mastermind, accusing him of endangering lives. Victor's retaliation was apocalyptic, turning Marcus's victory into ashes, the system twisting tighter, exploiting racial fears to justify the lie. Tanya clutched his hand, her voice shaking, but Marcus's eyes hardened, knowing Victor's hate ran deeper than he'd imagined. The motel's fluorescent lights buzzed, the TV replaying the fire, and Marcus realized the war was personal, Victor targeting not just him, but everyone he loved. If you're screaming at Victor's cruelty, drop a number 1 in the comments. To stand against this injustice, smash that like button, subscribe, and join us to see Marcus fight back, because this story's twists are relentless. So, how will Victor tighten the noose now that Marcus's legacy is in flames? Marcus Ellison's heart raced as he hid in a Miami church basement, the musty air thick with the scent of old hymnals, his sister Tanya safe but shaken beside him, the glow of a single bulb casting shadows on the concrete walls. The motel's safety had been a fleeting illusion, shattered when news of Nexus Innovation's headquarters burning to the ground hit, a fiery grave for his billion-dollar AI empire, with Victor Hargrove's forged evidence pinning the arson on Marcus himself. The journalist's expose of Victor's IRS bribe, sparked by Marcus's hacked emails, had ignited protests, 30 million X posts demanding justice, and Marcus believed this public fury would force the system to relent, clearing his fugitive status and ending the nightmare that began with a spilled coffee on his jet. He'd saved Tanya from Victor's kidnappers, a daring rescue that left his arm bleeding, and now, with the world watching, he planned to turn himself in, trusting the truth to free him. The church, run by Carla Diaz, a fierce activist with a voice like thunder, was a sanctuary, its stained glass windows dark under Miami's 100-degree night. Carla's community group, a mix of Black, Latino, and Asian organizers, rallied around Marcus, their faces lit with defiance, offering him shelter and a plan to broadcast his surrender live, forcing transparency. Marcus, his 6-foot frame hunched, over a laptop, typed a statement, his shoulder wound throbbing, the weight of the arson charge and the manhunt crushing him. He'd lost his company, his home defaced with slurs, his allies betrayed, but Carla's resolve rekindled his fight, her words echoing his own rise from Atlanta's streets. By dawn, they streamed his statement on X, Marcus's voice steady, detailing Victor's hate group ties, the IRS frame-up, and the fire's true culprit, his dark eyes piercing the camera. The video hit 10 million views in hours, with crowds gathering outside Miami's police headquarters, chanting his name, the hashtag #TheArchFreeMarcus surging. Marcus felt a flicker of hope, believing the system couldn't ignore this, his surrender a checkmate against Victor's lies. He hugged Tanya, her eyes red but proud, and prepared to walk into the precinct, Aisha Reynolds, his lawyer, coordinating with Carla to ensure his safety. But Victor, pacing his oceanfront estate 10 miles away, his silver hair glinting under chandelier light, had no intention of losing. His network, a labyrinth of corrupt officials and media barons, moved faster than Marcus's truth, As Marcus's video spread, Victor's PR firm unleashed a counterstrike, flooding X and cable news with a campaign labeling Carla's group a terrorist cell, with Marcus as its mastermind, funding it through his embezzled millions. The lies were slick, backed by forged documents and a doctored photo of Marcus at a protest, his face twisted to look menacing. News anchors paid off by Victor's allies ran the story non-stop, and public opinion flipped. The crowds outside, the precinct turning hostile, their chants now screams for Marcus's arrest. Miami's police, under Victor's influence, declared a citywide manhunt, drones buzzing like hornets, their cameras sweeping every corner. Marcus, in the church, watched the news shift, his stomach twisting as Carla's face appeared on screen. Branded a radical, her group's community center raided. He urged Carla to flee, but she refused, her defiance unbreakable, until the basement door splintered, and police in riot gear stormed in, their shouts drowning out Tanya's scream. Marcus grabbed Tanya, sprinting through a back tunnel, the damp stone scraping his arms, Carla's voice fading as officers cuffed her. They emerged in an alley, the city's neon pulse a cruel backdrop, drones humming overhead, their red lights like predators' eyes. Marcus's hope crumbled. His surrender. Plan a trap. Victor's retaliation transforming his allies into targets. The church raid, broadcast live, showed Carla dragged away. The community center's murals defaced with slurs, a mirror of Marcus's own mansion. Ex-posts, once supportive, now called him a terrorist. The system's racist gears grinding him down, exploiting fears of black rebellion to justify the crackdown. Tanya clutched his hand, her breath ragged, but Marcus's mind spun, piecing together the betrayal. Someone in Carla's group, a mole planted by Victor, had leaked their location, turning his sanctuary into a snare. He led Tanya through Miami's backstreets, the manhunt sirens closing in, his burner phone buzzing with a text from Aisha, warning that Carla's arrest was just the start. Victor's machine had weaponized the city itself, every citizen, a potential hunter. Marcus's face on every screen, his legacy ashes, his freedom a fading dream. The alley's shadows swallowed them, the weight of the manhunt suffocating, and Marcus realized Victor's next move would be even crueler. The system rigged to erase him completely, leaving him to wonder who else he'd lose in this war. Marcus Ellison's lungs burned as he crouched in a hidden bunker beneath a Miami auto shop, the air heavy with grease and the faint hum of a generator, his sister Tanya shivering beside him, the citywide manhunt sirens a distant wail through concrete walls. The church raid had shattered his plan to surrender. Carla Diaz's arrest and the terrorist label pinned on her community group a brutal twist by Victor Hargrove, the silver-haired airline titan whose racist vendetta had torched Nexus Innovations headquarters and branded Marcus a fugitive. The X campaign, fueled by Victor's lies, had turned Miami against him. Drones and police sweeping every street, his face a symbol of fear on every screen. Marcus's 6-foot frame ached, his shoulder wound seeping through a fresh bandage, the weight of losing his billion-dollar AI empire, his home, and now his allies crushing him. Tanya's eyes, red from tears, begged for hope, but Marcus clung to one goal: freeing Carla, whose defiance had given him sanctuary. He'd evaded the manhunt, slipping through alleys with Tanya, finding refuge in this bunker, run by a mechanic named Rico, a quiet ally who'd seen Victor's corruption firsthand. Marcus's burner phone, his last link to the outside, held a message from Aisha Reynolds, his lawyer, warning that Carla faced terrorism charges, a grand jury rigged by Victor's influence. Marcus's mind raced, his childhood grit from Atlanta's streets kicking in, refusing to let Victor erase another life. Rico handed him a laptop, its screen flickering in the bunker's dim light, and Marcus, ignoring the pain in his arm, hacked into a government server, his fingers trembling as he navigated firewalls, a skill honed in Nexus's early days. After hours, he struck gold. Emails showing Victor's payments to a juror, a woman named Helen Voss, ensuring Carla's conviction. Marcus's heart surged, believing this evidence could free Carla and expose Victor's grip on the justice system. He sent the files to Elena Torres, the journalist who'd published Victor's IRS bribe, and by morning, Elena's article hit, detailing the jury tampering, sparking outrage on X with 40 million posts. Protests swelling outside the courthouse. Carla's charges were dropped by noon, the judge citing new evidence. And Marcus, watching the news on Rico's cracked TV, felt a rush of victory, his breath catching as Carla walked free, her fist raised to cheering crowds. Tanya hugged him, the bunker's stale air lighter, and Marcus believed this win could shift the manhunt, maybe even clear his name. He planned to leak more of Victor's emails, thinking the public's fury would corner the airline titan. But Victor, lounging in a private jet 30,000 feet above Miami, his silver hair catching the cabin's light, had anticipated Marcus's desperation. His network, a machine of corrupt power, moved faster than the truth. And as Marcus celebrated, a new horror unfolded. A massive explosion rocked downtown Miami, a federal building reduced to rubble, the blast killing 12 and injuring 50, its flames lighting the 100-degree night. News channels fed by Victor's allies flashed breaking reports. Evidence planted in the rubble tied Marcus to the bombing, with forged manifests showing Nexus tech used in the device. The story, slick and relentless, branded Marcus a terrorist, mastermind, his hacked emails now framed as proof of his guilt. X turned feral, posts calling for his execution, the public's sympathy for Carla drowned by fear. Marcus stared at the TV, his victory ashes, Tanya's gasp echoing in the bunker's silence. The FBI, tipped by Victor's insiders, stormed the auto shop above, their boots thundering, forcing Marcus and Tanya to flee through a sewer tunnel, the dank water soaking their clothes, rats scurrying past. Marcus's wound screamed, his mind, reeling from the setup, the system's racist gears grinding him down, exploiting fears of black violence to justify the lie. The bombing charge was a death sentence, stripping him of allies, even Rico now hesitant, his eyes flickering with doubt. Aisha's text warned of a nationwide manhunt, the FBI's task force armed with shoot-to-kill orders. Marcus emerged in a junkyard, the city's neon skyline a cruel taunt. Tanya clutching his arm, her faith in him the only anchor. He'd freed Carla, but Victor's retaliation was apocalyptic, turning him into a national threat, his legacy erased, his freedom a ghost. The junkyard's shadows hid them, but Marcus knew Victor's next move would be deadlier. The system weaponized to hunt him like prey, leaving him to wonder who else would pay for his fight. Marcus Ellison's boots crunched through a Miami junkyard, the rusted hulks of cars looming like ghosts under a moonless 100-degree night. His sister Tanya trailing close, her breath ragged from their escape through the sewer tunnel, the FBI's manhunt closing in like a noose. The federal building bombing, a monstrous lie pinned on Marcus with forged evidence, had turned him into America's most wanted, the terrorist label erasing his billion-dollar AI empire, Nexus Innovations, and every ally but Tanya. His shoulder, wound throbbed, the bandage soaked, his 6-foot frame trembling from exhaustion, but his mind burned with defiance. The kid from Atlanta's streets refusing to break. The citywide manhunt, fueled by Victor Hargrove's media machine, had cost him Carla's sanctuary, his home, his legacy, all sparked by a racist flight attendant's coffee spill on his jet. Marcus's burner phone, his last tether, held a faint hope. A senator, Clara Nguyen, who'd publicly criticized Victor's airline empire, promising to hear Marcus's evidence of the bombing frame-up. Clara's office, 10 miles away, was a risk, but Marcus saw no choice. The nation's eyes on him as a monster, his sister's safety hanging by a thread. He hot-wired a battered pickup, the engine coughing to life, and drove through Miami's back roads, Tanya's eyes scanning for drones, their hum a constant threat. At noon, Marcus reached Bayfront Park, the meeting spot, the plaza packed with tourists, palm trees swaying in the sticky breeze. Clara, a petite woman with a steel gaze, met him under a banyan tree, her aides nervous, promising to take his evidence to Congress. Marcus handed her a drive, the bombing's forged manifests exposed, his voice low, detailing Victor's IRS, bribes, hate group ties, and jury tampering. Clara nodded, her words sharp, vowing to demand a federal probe. Marcus's chest eased, believing this alliance could shift the tide, the senator's influence a shield against Victor's lies. He slipped back into the crowd, Tanya at his side, thinking he'd outmaneuvered the manhunt, his name inches from cleared. But Victor, sipping scotch in a private club 20 miles away, his silver hair glinting under soft lights, had eyes in Clara's office, a mole feeding him every move. He'd hired an assassin, a ghost named Vance, to end Marcus's fight. The bombing charge not enough to sate his hate. As Marcus crossed the plaza, a rifle's crack split the air, a bullet grazing his temple, blood trickling as screams erupted, tourists scattering like leaves. Marcus dove behind a fountain, Tanya's cry piercing the chaos, his vision blurring but spotting the sniper's perch, a rooftop 300 feet away. He pulled Tanya through the park, dodging a second shot. That shattered a bench, his heart pounding, the crowd's panic a shield. Police swarmed, their radios blaming Marcus for the attack, Victor's media spinning it live, claiming he'd targeted Clara. Marcus, bleeding, reached an alley, his mind reeling, realizing Clara was Victor's puppet, her promise a trap to lure him out. He hacked her phone with a device from the junkyard, his fingers shaking, and found texts to Victor, confirming her betrayal, her probe, a lie, to keep Marcus exposed. The revelation gutted him, another ally lost, but he sent the text to Elena Torres, the journalist, whose article hit X within hours, exposing Clara's ties to Victor, 50 million posts raging against the senator. Marcus's evidence sparked a Senate ethics probe, Clara's career crumbling, a fleeting win that slowed the manhunt's heat. He bandaged his head in a derelict garage, Tanya's hands trembling as she helped, believing they'd gained ground, Victor's network cracking. But Victor, unfazed, leaned back in his club, his eyes cold, and dialed a new contact. Hours later, a news alert hit Marcus's phone. His best friend, Malik Carter, a Nexus co-founder who'd stayed loyal through every blow, was arrested, accused of orchestrating the assassination attempt, with forged bank records showing payments from Marcus's accounts. Malik's face, bewildered, flashed on screen, handcuffs glinting, as anchors called him Marcus's lieutenant. Marcus's knees buckled, the garage's oil-stained floor cold, Tanya's gasp echoing his pain. Malik, his brother in all but blood, was innocent, another victim of Victor's machine, the system exploiting their blackness to tear them apart. The betrayal wasn't Malik's, but Victor's, his retaliation slicing Marcus's heart, stripping his last anchor. X-Post turned on Malik, the public's trust gone, and Marcus, hiding in the garage's shadows, knew the manhunt would tighten. His fight now solitary, Victor's hate a tidal wave. The city's neon flickered beyond, a trap waiting to spring, leaving Marcus to wonder how much deeper Victor's cruelty could cut. If you're heartbroken for Marcus and Malik, drop a #1 in the comments to demand justice. Hit like, subscribe, and join this relentless fight, because the twists keep coming. So, what's Victor's next move to break Marcus's spirit completely? Marcus Ellison's head throbbed, the gash from the sniper's bullet stinging under a makeshift bandage, as he and Tanya huddled in a Miami tenement, its peeling walls vibrating with the city's 100-degree pulse. The betrayal of Malik Carter's arrest cutting deeper than any wound. Malik, his best friend and Nexus Innovations co-founder, was locked in a cell, framed for the assassination attempt Victor Hargrove orchestrated, the silver-haired airline titan's racist vendetta turning Marcus's life into a war zone, from a spilled coffee on his jet to a nationwide manhunt branding him a terrorist. The senator's exposure, a fleeting win, had done little to slow the FBI's hunt, their drones buzzing like vultures over Miami's neon-lit streets. Marcus's face on every billboard, a black man vilified by Victor's media machine. Tanya's eyes, hollow from fear, begged for a plan, but Marcus's 6-foot frame sagged, his shoulder wound seeping, the loss of his billion-dollar AI empire, his home, and now Malik crushing his spirit. Yet the kid from Atlanta's street still burned inside, refusing to let Victor erase Malik too. Marcus's burner phone, a lifeline in the tenement's flickering light, held texts from Elena Torres, the journalist, urging him to rally supporters for Malik's release. He organized a protest, using encrypted chats to mobilize thousands, believing public pressure could free his friend and expose Victor's frame-up. By dawn, Marcus stood at the edge of downtown Miami, the courthouse a marble fortress under a blazing sun as 10,000 marchers gathered, their signs demanding justice, their chants echoing through skyscrapers. Marcus, hooded to avoid drones, watched from a rooftop, his heart swelling as the crowd's roar drowned out police sirens. X live streams hitting 60 million views, the hashtag #FreeMalik trending globally. Community leaders, inspired by Carla's release, spoke of Marcus's fight, calling him a symbol against systemic hate, and the governor tweeted support, promising a review of Malik's case. Marcus felt a surge of hope, believing this movement could break Victor's grip, maybe even halt the manhunt. He texted Elena, coordinating a press release with evidence of Victor's payments to the senator, thinking the protest's momentum would force Malik's freedom. Tanya gripped his hand, her faith in him unwavering, and Marcus imagined Malik walking free, their brotherhood restored. But Victor, watching the protest from a private helicopter hovering 5,000 feet above, his silver hair catching the cabin's glow, smirked at the crowd's passion, his network of corrupt allies already moving. He'd paid agitators, ex-cons with ties to his hate group, to infiltrate the march. Their orders simple: turn peace into chaos. As Marcus watched, the protest's edge frayed, shouts turning to screams as agitators hurled bottles, smashed windows, and lit a police car ablaze, flames licking the 100-degree air. News helicopters circled, Victor's media spinning the riot as Marcus is doing, anchors claiming he'd incited violence to free his terrorist friend. Posts flipped, the public's support curdling into fear, with 60 million views. Now calling Marcus a warlord, the system's racist fears of black rebellion weaponized once more. Police in riot gear surged, tear gas clouding the streets, and Marcus's hope shattered, his protest a trap, Malik's release further away. He and Tanya fled the rooftop, the city's neon pulse a cruel mockery. But the worst was yet to come. A text from Aisha Reynolds, his lawyer, lit his phone, her words a gut punch. She'd been bribed by Victor's team, leaking Marcus's protest plans to the agitators, her betrayal sealed with $1 million deposit. Marcus's knees buckled, the tenement's stale air choking him. Aisha's face, once a beacon of trust, now a dagger. She'd been his rock, fighting the IRS, the SWAT raid, the bombing charge. But Victor's money had turned her, another ally lost to his machine. The riot's fallout dominated news, with anchors showing forged texts from Marcus ordering the chaos, the governor retracting support, Malik's bail denied. Police stormed the courthouse, arresting hundreds, their batons cracking skulls. The city a war zone blamed on Marcus's name. He led Tanya through back alleys, the manhunt sirens deafening, his burner phone buzzing with a final blow. Aisha's leak included his location, and SWAT teams were closing in. Marcus's heart pounded, the riot smoke stinging his eyes, his movement crushed, his brotherhood with Malik fractured, his trust in Aisha ashes. Victor's retaliation was a masterstroke, turning Marcus's hope into havoc, the system's gears grinding him down, exploiting racial panic to justify the crackdown. The alley's shadows hid them, but Marcus knew Victor's next move would be final. The city itself, a weapon, leaving him to wonder how much more he could endure. Marcus Ellison's breath hitched as he crouched in a Miami safe house, a derelict barbershop with cracked mirrors and the stale scent of pomade. The city's 100-degree heat seeping through boarded windows, his sister Tanya trembling beside him. The sting of Aisha Reynolds' betrayal sharper than the SWAT teams closing in. The protest he'd sparked to free Malik Carter, his framed best friend, had turned into a riot. Victor Hargrove's paid agitators twisting hope into chaos, branding Marcus the mastermind of a citywide uprising. The manhunt had intensified, FBI drones scouring Miami's neon-lit streets, Marcus's face a terrorist symbol, his billion-dollar AI empire, Nexus Innovations, reduced to ashes, all tracing back to a racist flight attendant's coffee spill on his jet. Tanya's eyes, shadowed with fear, begged for a way out, but Marcus's 6-foot frame, battered by a sniper's graze and a shoulder wound, held firm, his Atlanta grit refusing to let Victor, the silver-haired airline titan, win. Aisha's leak had exposed his location, forcing a desperate escape through alleys. But Marcus had one card left: evidence of Victor's jury tampering in Carla's case, buried in a drive he'd hidden before the riot. He believed a trial, broadcast live, could expose Victor's corruption, clear his name, and free Malik, ending the nightmare. Using a stolen laptop, its keys sticky with grime, Marcus contacted Elena Torres, the journalist, who arranged a surrender with a sympathetic judge, promising transparency. By dawn, Marcus walked into Miami's federal courthouse, hands raised, cameras flashing, the crowd's jeers laced with racial slurs, his heart pounding but resolute. The trial, live-streamed to 80 million viewers, was his stage, and Marcus, in a borrowed suit, testified with fire, detailing Victor's hate group ties, IRS bribes, bombing frame-up, and the riot's orchestration. He presented the drive, its emails showing Victor's payments to jurors, cops, and senators, each word landing like a hammer, X posts surging to 90 million, hashtags like Shocker Truth for Marcus trending globally. Elena's articles amplified his voice, and witnesses from Carla to a defecting Nexus coder corroborated his story, their faces defiant on screen. The prosecution, backed by Victor's allies, pushed the terrorism and arson charges, but Marcus's evidence swayed the gallery, gasps echoing as he exposed the forged bombing manifests. By the trial's third day, the public shifted, protests swelling outside, demanding Victor's arrest, and Marcus felt a flicker of triumph, believing the system might bend, Malik's release imminent, his fugitive days over. Tanya, watching from a safe house, texted her pride, and Marcus, in a holding cell, planned an appeal to overturn the bombing charge. His spirit buoyed. But Victor, sipping cognac in a private suite 20 miles away, his silver hair catching candlelight, had rigged the game from the start. His network, a hydra of corrupt power, had bribed the entire jury. 12 men and women bought with offshore accounts, their votes sealed before Marcus's testimony. As the verdict loomed, Victor's media flooded X with new lies, claiming Marcus had hacked the court servers to fake his evidence, turning public hope into doubt. The jury, stone-faced, delivered a guilty verdict, convicting Marcus of terrorism, arson, and embezzlement, sentencing him to life without parole. The gavels crack like a gunshot in the packed courtroom. Marcus's knees buckled. The air sucked. From his lungs, Tanya screamed through a smuggled phone, piercing his heart. The livestream captured his fall. 90 million viewers watching the system crush a black man. Racial biases weaponized to justify the lie. In a prison transport van, its steel cage rattling through Miami's rain-soaked streets, Marcus met a guard, Jamal Tate. Not the traitor hacker, but a kindred spirit, a black ex-cop who'd seen Victor's corruption up close. Jamal, his voice low, slipped Marcus a burner phone promising to help, and Marcus, his mind racing, began plotting an appeal, believing he could leak the jury's bribes to Elena. But as the van reached the prison, a maximum security fortress 50 miles inland, Victor's final blow landed. In the yard, under a scorching sun, 3 inmates hired by Victor's network ambushed Marcus, their shivs glinting, one slicing his side, blood pooling on the concrete. Marcus fought back, his fists a blur, but the guards also paid off, stood, idle, their radios silent. He collapsed, vision fading, the inmates' boots kicking his ribs, each blow a message from Victor, whose hate ran deeper than Marcus had imagined. The yard's dust choked him, his appeal a distant dream. Malik still caged, Tanya alone. And Marcus knew Victor's next strike would aim to erase him forever. The system a guillotine sharpened by racism, leaving him to wonder if he'd survive the night. Marcus Ellison lay battered in a prison infirmary, the antiseptic stench sharp in his nose, his ribs aching from the inmates' shivs, the 100-degree Miami heat seeping through the prison's concrete walls. His sister Tanya hidden but vulnerable, the rigged trial's life sentence a chain around his soul. The ambush in the yard, orchestrated by Victor Hargrove, the silver-haired airline titan, had nearly killed him, a brutal reminder of the racist vendetta that began with a spilled coffee. On his jet, spiraling into the destruction of his billion-dollar AI empire, Nexus Innovations, Marcus's 6-foot frame, bruised and bandaged, trembled with defiance. His Atlanta grit clinging to the burner phone slipped to him by Jamal Tate, the guard who'd seen Victor's corruption up close. The trial, live-streamed to 90 million, had exposed Victor's jury tampering, but the guilty verdict, bought by Victor's bribes, crushed Marcus's hope. Malik still caged, Aisha's betrayal a lingering wound. Yet Marcus had one play left. The jury tampering evidence, backed up on a hidden drive, could spark an appeal and expose Victor's grip on the system. From the infirmary's cot, his side stitched and throbbing, Marcus texted Elena Torres, the journalist, using Jamal's phone, sending the drive's location, a locker 20 miles away. Elena's article hit at dawn, detailing Victor's payments to the jury, with bank records and voicemails, igniting protests across Miami. 100,000 strong, their chants shaking the city's neon-lit streets. X-posts hit 100 million, hashtags like Overturn Marcus surging, with global outlets picking up the story, the governor facing pressure to reopen the case. Marcus, monitoring the news on a smuggled tablet, felt a spark of triumph, believing the public's rage would force a retrial, maybe free Malik, his best friend framed for Victor's assassination attempt. Jamal whispered updates, his eyes fierce, promising to smuggle Marcus to a hearing if the appeal gained traction. Marcus's heart lifted, picturing Tanya safe, his legacy salvageable, the system bending under truth's weight. He clutched the tablet, the infirmary's fluorescent buzz of faint hope, thinking Victor's empire was cracking, his own name inches from cleared. But Victor, pacing his oceanfront estate 30 miles away, his silver hair glinting under starlight, had anticipated Marcus's resilience, his network a machine of endless hate. As protests swelled, Victor unleashed his deadliest strike, hacking Nexus's cloud archives, a fortress of patents and algorithms worth billions, erasing every trace of Marcus's innovations. The hack, executed by a team of cybercriminals on Victor's payroll, rewrote history, planting records that branded Marcus a fraud who'd stolen his tech, not built it. News broke as Marcus watched, the tablet's screen flashing. Nexus founder exposed as plagiarist, with articles citing leaked emails showing Marcus as a front for white engineers, a racist lie that erased his genius, exploiting stereotypes of black inferiority. X-posts turned venomous, the public's faith collapsing, protests fizzling as doubt spread, the governor backtracking. Marcus's chest caved, his legacy, the heart of Nexus, gone, the system's gears grinding his identity to dust. The hack cost trillions in market value, Nexus's stock crashing, employees jobless, Malik's hope dimmer. Victor's media doubled down, claiming Marcus's appeal was a desperate ploy, the jury tampering fabricated by a terrorist. In the infirmary, Marcus's stitches tore as he sat up, rage and despair warring, but Jamal, risking his job, offered a way out, a tunnel beneath the prison, used for contraband stretching 100 miles to a safe house. Marcus, driven by the need to confront Victor, agreed, his wounds screaming as he crawled through the stormy tunnel, rain flooding the stone, Tanya's safety his only anchor. Jamal led him to a van, the night's thunder masking their escape, and Marcus, half dead, reached a derelict warehouse believing he could rebuild with Elena's help. But Victor, sipping wine in his estate, had laid a final trap, luring Marcus to a meeting with a whistleblower, promising dirt on Victor's network. Marcus arrived, the warehouse's rusted beams creaking, only to find explosives rigged to detonate, a timer ticking down from 10 seconds. He sprinted, the blast erupting behind him, flames searing his back, debris slicing his legs, the warehouse collapsing in a fiery roar. Marcus stumbled into the rain, barely alive, his tablet shattered, his evidence with Elena his last hope, the world believing him dead. Victor's retaliation was apocalyptic, erasing his legacy, his freedom, his name. The system's racist lies burying him alive, exploiting every fear of black power. The rain washed his blood, Tanya's fate unknown, Malik's cell colder, and Marcus presumed gone. Knew Victor's final strike was coming, a blow to end him forever, leaving him to wonder if truth could still prevail. Marcus Ellison staggered through Miami's rain-soaked outskirts, the 100-degree storm lashing his bloodied body, his clothes charred from the warehouse explosion that nearly claimed his life, the world believing him dead, a ghost in a city that had hunted him like prey. Victor Hargrove's apocalyptic hack had erased Nexus Innovations' patents, rewriting Marcus's billion-dollar AI legacy as a fraud, the racist lie fueled by a spilled coffee on his jet, spiraling into a nightmare of manhunts, bombings, and betrayals. His 6-foot frame, scarred by shivs, bullets, and flames, trembled with defiance. The Atlanta kid who'd built an empire refusing to let Victor, the silver-haired airline titan, bury him. Tanya, his sister, was hidden. Malik still caged, his allies like Aisha and Carla broken or lost. But Marcus clung to Elena Torres' promise, the journalist holding his jury-tampering evidence, the key to his appeal. The explosion, Victor's trap, had shattered his tablet, but Marcus's mind burned with one goal: confront Victor and end this war. Limping through the storm, his wounds screaming, he reached Victor's oceanfront estate, a fortress of glass and marble 30 miles from Miami's neon heart, its lights glowing like a predator's eyes. Marcus, presumed dead, slipped past guards, their radios crackling, using skills honed in Nexus's early days to bypass the estate's alarms, the rain masking his steps. Inside, the air was cool, scented with cedar, and Marcus's heart pounded. As he crept through a hallway, portraits of Victor's ancestors glaring down, their eyes echoing the hate that drove this fight. In a study, he found a hidden safe, his fingers trembling as he cracked its code, a trick learned from hacking servers. The safe yielded a drive, its files a bombshell, a recording of Victor confessing every crime, from the coffee spill orchestrated to provoke Marcus, to the IRS bribes, hate group funding, bombing frame-up and jury rigging, his southern drawl, chillingly casual, laced with racial slurs. Marcus's blood ran hot, the confession a blade to cut Victor's empire, proof the system's gears were greased by his hate. He uploaded the file to a burner phone, hands shaking, and contacted Elena, who prepped a live stream, her voice urgent, promising global reach. Marcus slipped out, the estate's silence eerie, and found a public Wi-Fi hub 5 miles away, a dingy cafe buzzing with late-night stragglers. Elena's broadcast hit at midnight, Victor's voice echoing to 150 million viewers, confessing the coffee spill was a test, a spark to put that black mogul in his place, followed by every orchestrated blow, from the doctored video to the prison ambush. X erupted, posts hitting 200 million, protests flooding Miami streets, then New York, Chicago, London, the world screaming for Victor's head. Victor's stock crashed, his airline empire hemorrhaging billions, his board ousting him as CEO, his allies in Congress and the media abandoning ship, their own scandals exposed in the drive's files. Marcus, watching from the cafe, his face hidden under a hood, felt a surge of triumph, his legacy clawing back from the grave. By dawn, the governor pardoned Marcus. Malik walked free, their embrace televised, Tanya safe, rushing to join them, her tears a balm to his wounds. Nexus's patents were restored, a whistleblower confirming Victor's hack, and investors rallied, the company's stocks soaring. Marcus stood in a Miami park, the sun breaking through clouds. His name cleared, the system's lies shattered, the coffee spill's spark now a global fire for justice. But as he hugged Tanya and Malik, a final twist landed, a coded message on his phone, buried in the drive's files. Victor's network, a hydra of racist power, was still alive, its leaders vowing revenge, their reach deeper than Victor's fall. Victor, arrested but smirking in cuffs, knew his allies would strike, his confession a calculated sacrifice to shield the machine. Marcus's victory was bittersweet, his empire reborn but his future a battlefield, the system's roots unyielding, exploiting race to divide and conquer. He looked at Miami's skyline, its neon pulse a reminder of the fight begun on his jet. Now a war without end. Marcus vowed to fight on, his voice steady, addressing a crowd of thousands, their cheers a shield. But the message's threat lingered, a shadow over his triumph. Tanya gripped his hand, Malik's eyes fierce, and Marcus, scarred but unbroken, knew the next battle was coming. The system's hate a tide he'd face again, leaving him to wonder when it would strike and how much it would cost. The story of Marcus Ellison and crew spills coffee on Black Man's laptop, then finds out he owns the jet, unveils stark truths about systemic racism's relentless grip. First, it shows how a single act, like a racist coffee spill, can spiral into a war against a black man's legacy, exposing how biases weaponize institutions, media, police, courts, to crush success. Marcus's billion-dollar empire, built from grit, couldn't shield him from Victor Hargrove's hate, proving wealth doesn't erase racial targeting. Second, resilience is a lifeline. Marcus's defiance, rooted in his Atlanta struggles, kept him fighting through betrayals, manhunts, and near-death blows, teaching us that inner strength can defy even the darkest odds. Third, systemic change requires collective action. Marcus's victories, exposing Victor's crimes, rallying millions, came from allies like Elena and Jamal, showing solidarity can shift tides. Yet the lingering threat of Victor's network underscores a final lesson. Racism's roots run deep, demanding constant vigilance. Marcus's bittersweet triumph, restoring Nexus but facing future battles, reminds us justice is a marathon, not a sprint. We must challenge lies, amplify truth, and stand united against hate. What's your takeaway from Marcus's fight? Drop a number 1 in the comments if you believe in dismantling systemic racism. Hit like, subscribe, and share to spread this story. Thank you for joining this journey. Your support fuels these racism stories. Here's wishing you strength to stand for justice every day.